Hey everyone, I'm Logan Lane and I am presenting Empowering Students Through Experiential Learning. I'm currently an agriculture education teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. Over this webinar, we are going to be going over two theories that I have implemented in my classroom that has shown great success and has allowed for my students to not only be able to be more confident in their learning, but also be able to demonstrate mastery of many different concepts on a different level. So as we kind of get into the room and get accustomed, throw the following items in the chat. What state you're from, what school you teach at, the CTE pathway that you teach, what have you gained and are looking forward to during this conference? And after this conference, what summer plans do you have in place? I know that we are all excited to have a break from school for us to regroup, especially after the COVID pandemic here. Throwing those in the chat. Thank you all for participating. So excited that you're here today. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself. So I am originally from Manning, South Carolina. However, I found my way to Kentucky where I majored in career and technical education, specifically agricultural education. And then this past May, I graduated with a master's in education and technology leadership. My career experiences is I've been an agricultural education teacher for 4 years. I teach at Locust Trace Agri-Science Center in Lexington, Kentucky. This July, I'm very excited to announce that I have recently taken a position as an educational technology specialist with Carnegie Mellon University, where I will be working with staff and faculty to help align their current lessons with technologies to help student learning as well. So let's talk about first is how will students learn? We know that there are many different ideas about the best way to give instruction. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, we've learned a lot about student ability, bandwidth, access, literacy that we need to take forward in moving in our educational journeys. Student choice is a necessity. I think this speaks volumes because our students do need to be engaged, and especially when they're at a distance, them having the opportunity to choose what they want to do will always result in that dedication to their assignments. Deeper learning can take place without formal classes. I don't know if your schools experience this, but I was going online 5 days a week. That was okay for me because I only taught 4 classes a day. However, my students would have 8, sometimes 9 classes in one day. That's a lot of screen time. And so we need to think about how we can make learning occur even outside of the traditional classroom setting. Like now, this is not in a university, this is not a part of a program. However, you are learning, and so we should model that for our students. Students need more flexibility in their learning. Students have a ton of barriers in front of them, whether that be home issues, ability, even feasibility of technology. I know that we've had students whose connections might have not been the greatest, and so we should adapt to that. And also technology is an asset when manipulated correctly. I'll admit that using technology this past year as virtual teaching, it took a lot of time just because we were transitioning. However, once we get over that hill, I think that we are all able to admit that it wasn't that bad. It's just getting into that ourselves. So we were all kind of learning together with our students, and we want to figure out how to make that happen. I've started off this idea of how we learn in my classes even before the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is breaking up out of 100%. 70% is examples of learning by working or experiences. 20% is examples by learning together and relationships with people, and then 10% from direct instruction. Direct instruction is not going to look the same for every classroom. I like to pair my students and find podcasts and webinars and master classes and different modules that really conceptualize what we need to cover in our class while allowing them to get a different feel. And this is even student choice in the fact that they can listen to it, they can read it, they can work as a group together. So this is how I model it. And we know in career technical education, the hands-on learning aspect is huge. And it's really one of the most appealing things to our discipline. So we're taking how will our students learn to Kolb's learning model. So here we have what we call a concrete experience. This will be a variety of different ideas that I will showcase on the next slide. So after you do that experience, really important is reflection. Action without reflection is a waste of time. We don't need to just run through the experience because our students enjoy it. We need to do the experience, pause, allow our students to think through it, and then in the abstract conceptualization, figure out how we can make it better the next time we do it. In all of our jobs, we have duties and responsibilities that we do multiple times. Maybe yours is planning lessons, holding meetings, writing emails, whatever that task may be. After you do that, you probably think about and talk with your peers and colleagues about what went well and what didn't work. But now we want to go a step further and take those comments, turn them into actionable items, and really process what happened. After you conceptualize and really identify the pros and cons and what went well in that experience, we need to set up a goal for the next time we do it. We know that repetition is very important with our students, even if you're just memorizing knowledge. And so we need to have a plan for whenever we go back to the experience, because I know as a teacher, I hate whenever my students do a task and then they just wrap back around and they have no idea why it didn't work the second time. I always tell them, you think I'm crazy, but you're showing insanity because you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. So this idea of the Kolb's experiential learning cycle is very powerful in the fact that if done correctly, our students are able to witness their faults in their process, come back together and really make a plan. And I think that's some of the hunger that our students have is if they fail, our students do want to do well. No one wants to come and just do poorly whenever we have the right motivating factors. What I want to do now is take some lessons that I have done or have seen with a few career and technical education teachers use and how I can embed that with the Kolb's model of learning. The first one, I teach a lot of equine science and agri-science research. So haltering a horse. My students are from the horse capital of the world. However, they don't always grow up with that experience. And so my students struggle with a 1,000-pound animal putting a halter on. And honestly, I just let them go in. I hand them the halter, the lead rope, I put them with a horse, and and of course, giving them some advice on safety measures, I kind of see where they go, because I could demonstrate and I could hold their hands while we do it, but it'll be a lot more purposeful if they do it on themselves, fail, and then have to come back and really figure out why it works. Grooming horses, measuring wood for construction. We made nail boxes in the principles of agriculture class. I mean, and you all know how it is. If you mismeasure and cut, you can't make the board any longer. So that repetition was needed. Welding, students want to feel it. In order for students to truly grasp the concepts, we need to just throw them in and let them try. I understand that some of you who do teach welding understand the lack of supplies. Maybe we do it in a different way. Maybe we don't always let them go full out with the most expensive tools or the steel on the welder. Interviewing and employability skills. Think back to when you first interviewed in high school, if you did that a part of your CTE classes. It's scary. And I think back to, now when I'm 27, I still have to brush up on those skills before I go in. But as you do more, you get better. Sutures on fruit and veterinary sciences is one that I love, just because students who have that creative component in their brain can just look at the picture and do it. And so this is when the relationship starts to happen in my class. Maybe we start class out, I show a small video on how to do a suture. They're very small, nothing too big, just enough so they get it. I allow them to do it, but while they're doing it, they're learning the tools, they're learning the techniques and the terminology, because I don't want to have a vocabulary section at the beginning of every unit. I want to embed it so that way I'm saving time. And that way, instead of me putting a picture of it, they can hold it and they can use it. And then sometimes I will have them come back and say, what is this? Let's make a vocabulary list of terms together now that we've used this. So during the sutures, I would let them practice it, and then I would have them assess themselves formatively. And then if there was enough time left in class, I would allow them to work with their partners. Students come at very different levels and experiences, and we should value those experiences. For example, my students have a lot of either veterinary science experience or equine knowledge just because of how they have been interacting in our community. And so we should allow those pairs to help teach each other and allow the students to kind of assess each other as well, because it gives them autonomy and it gives them the ability to kind of be proud. Tractor driving, temperature, pulse, respiration, completing an I-9 and taxes. I have a friend who teaches business at a high school in my district, and she always laughs because on these forms they say fill this out, and she just gives it to the student to do, and it says first name, last name. You all know how it goes. She says they always ask questions because they're so hesitant to do it. We have students who are hesitant. We just need to let them go. We need to let them go and explore and be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. And that's a really tough lesson because no one wants to be wrong, especially in a high school setting with their peers and mentors looking around. And that's okay. And that's a learning process. These are a few examples of lessons that I use that I could just think of off the top of my head. I have others, but I didn't want to bog you down with what I've been doing. So obviously, one of the biggest pieces of learning is the assessment. After watching this presentation, I'm going to implore you to go watch Fallon Jackson's presentation titled Encouraging Self-Expression by Showcasing Student Success. She's my co-teacher. We both work at Locust Trace together, and her and I have worked diligently to ensure that our students are not only doing the work, but they have the ability to showcase it, whether that be in showcase nights, digital portfolios, just so that way they can kind of have something that they're proud of, and it's an easy way for us to assess. However, during the day-to-day, you want to continuously formatively assess your students. This could look in many different ways. After the students had the experience, they reflect on what they did. They can make an analysis chart. The left side said, I did this, and the right side said, because of that, this occurred. We could do student-to-student check-in with those individuals who have past history. Video recording assessments. I think about it like whenever I played tennis in high school, my dad would come out and he would record me so I could watch my feet, so I could watch what I was doing. And students can benefit from that as well because they can't see it from a spectator's view. However, whenever you do this, it would be very beneficial. And then content knowledge assessment. Like I said, we do vocabulary terms together and I kind of let them make up their own definition. I, of course, make sure it's right and correct. However, I do assess them on what they came up with. It's pretty empowering because they're like, they just have a sense of ownership that they don't get anywhere else. And then summative assessments, like I talked about, these digital portfolios, the showcase nights. I love for my students to show off their knowledge. And they're a totally different student whenever they do that, especially whenever you kind of do push them to go out and to talk to these authentic audiences. We have an advisory committee, which is made up of professionals in the equine industry, and they come out and they visit our students. And our partners love it. Our students love talking to these farm owners because there's a potential for a job there, and they understand the reality of it. A few considerations that I just want to touch on. Of course, larger class size opportunities. I have had classes of 35, and it's a madhouse whenever we go out to the barn. We need to utilize those students with prior experiences and even utilize those students who kind of pick up faster and can show that they have mastered this skill. Let them show off, let them own it, but then let them even come back because we know that the highest level of understanding is teaching. They have the ability to add recognized skills on a resume. These certifications that ICEV offers are invaluable. However, now in this interview port, if they get an interview, they can now showcase and demonstrate and really talk about these experiences. This allows for concrete experiences for students to relate back to. Learning is a building process. This also allows for purposeful reflection, which is a daily thing, especially as educators, we know the importance of, and we should influence our students to do that too. This allows students to be creative and translate their mistakes into valuable experiences. I I wholeheartedly believe in experiential learning. Um, Agriculture education does, and I think that we could embed this in all areas of career and technical education if done right. So right here, I have my email and my phone number. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. Please ask me. I love talking about education and all that it has to offer for students, and I would be more than happy to have a conversation. Also know that now that you have finished this um, webinar, you will get points awarded for this, and this will be on your list of um, events that you attended this week. So be looking out for that. And also, please join us for a live question and answer session right after this. Thank you all for joining. Again, I'm Logan Lane, talking about experiential learning. Have a great day.